2 degrees. Not 2 inches of lead tape, not a longer shaft, not a new head. Just 2 degrees of loft on the driver already sitting in your bag. That single adjustment on the right club has been measured to add carry distance in the double digits. The number that gets thrown around is 15 yards. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but the promise is always the same. Distance you don't have to swing harder for. Here's the part the industry never leads with. The clubs capable of this change have been on the market for years now, and most golfers have never once touched the wrench that came in the box. That wrench is the key to the whole system, and the fact that it sits untouched in a drawer is not an accident. It's the quiet engine of a very expensive cycle. So let's be clear about what this video actually is. It's not a gear review. It's not a list of the latest heads. It's an investigation into a single number and the machinery built around keeping you from using it. By the end, you'll know exactly what those 2 degrees do to your ball flight, why the instantly part is real, and where the money you almost spent was going instead. Stay with me here, because the most important part is the one that's hardest to sell. It's already yours. You didn't misplace the fix. It was never advertised. You're standing in the pro shop, listening to a fitter explain why the new model will straighten out your miss. You nod, because that's what you're supposed to do. The launch monitor flashes numbers, the shaft feels slightly different in your hands, and the price tag whispers that this is the missing piece. But there's a moment, right after you hand over the card, where something quiet happens. The hope that you bought starts to dim, slowly, over the next few rounds. You felt it. That pinch when you realized the new club was supposed to change something, and it didn't change the only miss that mattered. That pinch isn't your imagination. It's the sound of a system working exactly as designed. That pinch after the new club didn't change the only miss that mattered. That is not buyer's remorse, that is the system showing its hand. Subscribe if you want to keep following the machinery behind that quiet cycle, because the next part goes inside the wrench itself. In the comments, write dead money. What you just heard is the surface. The Dead Money Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here. Plus, the vault. 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. If you've ever left that wrench untouched in the drawer. The belief that a new driver fixes distance is the first charge on the receipt. And it's the most expensive one. Because it's not a fee, it's a conviction. And convictions keep you coming back. The truth is that the club in your bag is not the limitation you think it is. The limitation is the setting it shipped with and the fact that nobody ever showed you the wrench. That's the gap. And that gap is a market. Now consider this. Most adjustable drivers come with a sleeve on the hosel that lets you change the loft by a couple of degrees up or down. It's a mechanical feature, built into the club, designed to be used. The manual that came in the box explains it, usually with a small diagram and a warning to loosen the screw fully before you turn anything. Most golfers never read that page. Most golfers never even know the diagram exists. Here's what actually happens when you make that change. The loft on the face changes, which changes how high the ball launches. But it also changes the face angle. Add loft, and the face tends to close a touch. Take loft away, and it opens. This is the part that matters, because the miss you've been fighting for years was never a mechanical failure of your swing. It was a setting you were never told you had. Let me give you a concrete picture. Take a golfer who launches the ball too low, with too much spin, losing both carry and roll. They've been told their swing is the problem. Swing speed is fine, contact is decent, but the numbers on the monitor are flat. The fix in the fitting cart is almost always the same. Move the loft up, watch the launch climb, watch the spin settle into the right window. The gain shows up on the very next swing. Not after practice, not after lessons. Right there on the screen. That's the instantly part. It's not hype, it's mechanics. When you give the ball a higher launch and a spin rate that keeps it in the air longer, the carry distance climbs. In tests done with a robot swinging the same club, adding 2 degrees of loft increased average carry. The numbers you'll hear most often are 12 to 15 yards of extra carry, depending on where you started. The exact figure shifts with your launch conditions, but the direction is consistent. And here's the part that should make you pause. That robot test was done with the same club, same shaft, same head, same golfer, just a 2-degree twist on the hosel. The thing that added the yards wasn't a purchase. It was a setting. That 2-degree twist on the hosel was the same club, same shaft, same swing. And it added yards no purchase could touch. Subscribe if you want to keep finding the free settings hiding in plain sight before the demo day can sell you next year's head. In the comments, write Dead Money. What you just heard is the surface. The Dead Money Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here. Plus, The Vault, 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. If you've ever been handed a new driver when the answer was already sitting in your hosel. So, why does nobody tell you this at the demo day? Why does the fitter steer you toward the new head, the premium shaft, the custom order, when the answer was probably already in the adjustability of what you own? The reason isn't malice, it's math. A fitting fee is a modest revenue stream. A new driver is a much larger one, and it comes with a repeating cycle. Next year's model, next year's promise, next year's visit to the pro shop. This is where the money trail starts to show. Every time you believe you have to buy distance, you hand over hundreds of dollars for what is often a 1-degree tweak and a different paint job. The industry knows the adjustment exists. It counts on you not using it, because if you did, you might keep your current driver for years. And a golfer who keeps the same driver is a golfer who stops spending. Don't get me wrong, fitting is a real service, and a good fitter can absolutely help you. But the system is built so that the simplest fix, the one printed on the hosel, is the one you're never shown. You're shown the new model, the marketing, the promise, the free settings stay in the drawer, and you keep paying for what was already there. So let's put the 2 halves of the title together. The 2-degree adjustment is real, and it works on the very next swing. The 15 yards are a genuine possibility, not a fantasy. But the way it's sold to you, the way it's framed as something you have to buy, that's the contradiction. The distance was never in the store. It was in the twist you never knew you had. You're on the 10th tee. Same slice you've been fighting since the turn. You've already bought the driver that was supposed to fix it, and you're standing there with the quiet dread of the same miss. But the answer is printed right there on the hosel, in the form of a setting you've never touched. The wrench is still in the drawer, still in the plastic. It takes about 60 seconds to loosen the screw, click the loft up 2 degrees, and tighten it back down. That's the whole process. No club purchase, no new shaft, no fitting cart. One click that changes the face angle and the launch window, and the ball starts climbing on a line you haven't seen in years. That's not a drill. That's a setting you always owned. Now you know the mechanism, and you know the money trail. The industry sells you new clubs because the free fix would break the cycle. The smartest move in the bag isn't a purchase. It's a wrench turn you never knew was there. So before you book your next fitting or buy the next model, look at your hosel. The answer has been sitting there since day one. There's a particular kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to buy your way out of a problem and finally understand it instead. For years, golf had you convinced that the distance you wanted lived in the next head, the next shaft, the next season's promise. But the most important fixes in this game are rarely in the store. They're in what you already own, waiting for the knowledge you were never given the chance to have. So when you add these 2 truths together, something shifts. The mechanical truth, that 2 degrees of loft can genuinely change your launch and your carry. And the financial one, that the industry depends on you never finding out. That's the whole picture. The adjustment is real, the yards are possible, and the gap between what you paid and what you got was never about your swing. It was about who profits when the wrench stays in the drawer. That gap between what you paid and what you got was never about your swing. It was about who profits when the wrench stays in the drawer. Subscribe now if you want to keep walking through the site of the game the fitting cart was designed to hide, because the next layer of dead money is already unfolding. In the comments, write dead money. What you just heard is the surface. The Dead Money Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here. Plus the vault. 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. Then, tell me what you found in your own bag once you stopped buying and started looking. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You'll walk past the demo day, watch the fitter gesture toward the newest model, and you'll know that the real conversation is the one being avoided. The quiet confidence of the smart spender isn't about buying less out of guilt. It's about knowing exactly where the value is and letting the marketing wash right past you. So here's the whole answer. Clean and simple. The 2 degrees are yours for the cost of a minute and the willingness to read the manual that came in the box. The 15 yards are real, and they were never the industry's to sell. They were always yours to claim. And the only thing standing between you and them was the quiet assumption that distance had a price tag. Now you know better. The wrench has been in your hand this whole time. There's one last ritual worth keeping. The next time you clean out your garage, or that drawer where the manual has lived for years, pull the wrench out. Hold it. Feel how light it is. That small piece of metal is cheaper than a sleeve of balls, and it carries more distance than most purchases ever will. It's a strange thing, the most powerful tool in golf being the one they never mention. You don't need a calendar for this. You don't need to wait for a new season or a new model. The next time you're on the range and the launch starts to flatten out, walk back to the bag, make the 2-degree turn, and watch what happens. That's the test. That's the proof. And the answer won't be in a receipt, so the next time you catch yourself staring at a new driver in the pro shop, remember the quiet click of the wrench. Remember that the distance you are about to pay for is already in your hands. And the best part of knowing this isn't the money you'll save. It's the peace of never again wondering if the answer was with you all along. It always was.